approval of the Allen County budget. Our first item before us then is the 24 ordinance on the appropriation of expenses of Allen County government. So
Yeah,
Nick,
real
I'll let
quick
you
on that
lead.
summary sheet that you guys have in there, just to tell you what you're passing. So up in the right-hand corner, the 145.7 million, that's approximately an 11.4% over 2023. In the revenue section there in the middle, the 79.5 million of property tax is about a 4% increase. The next two buckets there are 32.2 and 30.3, so the other general fund revenue and the lit. Those are both about a 20% increase over 23. And then the expected rollover cash, one and the same in that regard. If you don't spend it, it's still sitting in your bank account. That's approximately a 21% increase over what we used or budgeted in 2023, The very bottom, the other funds budget there, if you take out the 156 million includes ARPA. So if you take ARPA out to make it more consistent, it's about a 15% increase over 23. And the very bottom line of 302 million. 0.4, that's approximately a 13.3% increase over 23 without ARPA in it. And there's the breakdowns in the departments, for the general fund is in there as well. That reflects your 4% increase, the comp study, the appeals, any additional positions that were given throughout the year. And so that's the big, when we talk about 11.4% increase on the 145.7 million, your big ticket items were obviously the comp study, the 4% raise, and then some additional personnel that were granted in certain departments.
Yeah, and I was just going to point that out, that 11% reflected, so with that 4%, and then the comp study was additional improvements throughout the year that were done.
Yeah, then you've granted new sworn jail, new confinement officers, you moved some Superior Court employees into the general fund, you had to cover more for community corrections because the grant funds aren't covering it. And then also I have $1 million increase in health insurance built into here just because that fund balance has been spent down. Last year we had significant claims, and I may come back next month to get through the rest of this year.
Probably not going too far into the weeds, which I don't want to do at this stage, but that, what is it, the stop loss? Where is our stop loss at in the county?
I don't know. I know you asked this before, and I don't know if I know the correct dollar amount. I don't know if it's 400 or 300. I'll have to ask HR.
Let's try to find that one out. I'd like to know that number, just because the potential of those large claim items can happen and they can escalate and blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah,
understanding.
we always
this-
factored in our obviously analysis and what we need to contribute to the health insurance fund. We put those
Yeah.
reinsurance back into the
that
amount.
cost. I
Yes.
get it. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, council, thoughts, comments, considerations on this first item?
The last thing I would add, just when we're actually looking at the agenda here, is if you're still, if we still plan to take a different vote on elected officials, I would not do the 2024 salary ordinance for elected officials today if you're going to take different action at a
Yeah,
subsequent meeting.
just a thought on that, and Paul and Kyle and I sit on the comp committee, and the thought was that we could bring that before the November budget, or November meeting for further consideration or passage.
That's fine. If you adopt this, it doesn't reflect anything, what we would do is amend this for any changes.
It doesn't reflect any increase.
It reflects the 4% increase.
That's what I was wondering. Okay, so if it's adopted, they get the 4%, but we haven't done phase 3, I think is what it's been referred to as. So.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's
And
just
that,
the only.
and for elected officials, there's still time for that matter. Anybody can be changed up to the 12/31.
That's my interpretation of it, yes. It's not, you're not changing it within the year that it is set.
I understood.
Mr. Chairman, I have an item for discussion.
Sure.
As we are still trying to work on funding sources for a potential jail and needing to leave everything on the table, I would ask that we discuss amending the budget adoption to only include lit highway and lit DPS and leave the remaining lit economic development fund unappropriated until we come to a conclusion on a funding mechanism.
Yep, and that's an item for discussion. Thoughts, comments? Anybody? It's not yet in a form of a motion, but maybe it is. I'm just,
Right now it's
yeah,
discussion.
just discussion. So thoughts on that, council?
I almost think we have to just so we have another source for funding for the jail if need be, because we can always reappropriate it.
And that's not, we would need to have that done by year end in order to be able to move forward in '24. So we'd have to revisit that.
No, you did this at COVID, at the Coliseum, where it was not approved, and then in January of the next year, the commissioners came back and you granted it then, so it just kicked the can to, you don't necessarily, it's just if they.
We don't lose the money.
It will just, they will not have nothing, they will not have anything appropriated in the lead economic development fund unless it's encumbered.
But there's not a 12/31 date. We can come back to that at any
Yeah.
time. Okay, okay. Okay, so
I will put that in the form of a motion that we would amend the budget adoption to only, or to exclude lit economic development commissioners and include only lit highway and lit DPS. Did I say that right, Nick?
Yeah, well, yeah, and that amendment is to the ordinance 2023-10-19-02. That's what that amendment's pertaining to.
Second that.
we had a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, so with that, we have now in front of us the actual ordinance. Any further discussion on that item? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval? First item.
I will motion to approve ordinance 2023-10-19-02 of appropriations for expenses of Allen County government as amended.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion?
Just a point of discussion. We pulled the economic develop, or the lit portion out. I understand exactly why you did it. I would say that I think as we continue to work with the commissioners, my hope is that we get to a point where as we adopt whatever we're going to adopt for the jail, that we can have pretty broad consensus, both between the council and the commissioners, where everybody feels comfortable moving forward. That's my hope. I would have voted against that motion, Kyle, that Kyle made. However, it's passed, so I didn't have a chance to do that. But I would say that my hope is that as we move forward and begin that kind of those discussions on the jail, that we find and create as much consensus as we can.
All right, so I think that now up for that vote. So I think we've not voted on it yet.
We have not. Thank you for the opportunity.
All in favor of item number 1, which is the 24 ordinance 23-10-19-02, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass. Next item on the agenda today is the 24 elected officials. So again, to pass that would be the 4% improvement, but we've not considered phase 3, but that won't be coming until probably a November meeting at that point, if I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah, I have no clue when it's coming, but if you're going to plan to take action before year end, so we don't have to do an amended one, just don't take that one under consideration.
I see, okay. So council, is there interest in moving forward on that one, or would you rather not pass that and consider phase 3 at a later date? Otherwise, if we did move on it, we would receive the same increase as all employees.
The expenses are already in.
Yeah,
The budget.
You have to approve the budget, yes. You can't act on the budget in November. That has to be done. The salary ordinance is the only item that we're talking about here.
Okay.
Yeah, the next item on that list.
I just wanted to make,
Sure.
I mean, the 4%'s already in the budget. So
Yeah,
worst
and
case
so if-
scenario, we can act on the salary ordinance at the December meeting and the 4% would go into effect.
My opinion is yes.
Okay.
So is there a motion on that second item for elected officials?
if we do not move on this today, we're simply going to deal with it in November, is that correct?
We'll need to. I think that that's appropriate, that we would have to deal with it. So to not do that would be,
No, yeah. I don't want to leave something
Yep.
blank here that hamstrings us for a later meeting, but.
Of course, I'll beg the question then, what's going to be different in November than now? I don't know. Why push it off a month if nothing's going to change?
well, I think there's a consideration that the Personnel Department, the Personnel Committee, Comp Committee is going to propose the Phase 3 for elected officials. And that was not ready, I believe, for today's
So there may be
session.
more information coming.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
So
All
we're
right.
just going to hold that.
Yep. If no one's making a motion, we'll move to the salary ordinance for non-classified employees. Nick, anything you can add to us? on
I
the-
mean, I can go to I can go to these pages so you can see what we're referencing when you're
Make
talking.
sure we're-
But the non-classified would be usually what we usually look at it as, oh, Billy.
Well, let me ask this, Nick. Is there anything else coming in November that we have to deal with? Is this, we have everything we're going to have on this one from HR?
I have no clue on the, I'm
Not
not
from the
on the
comp
comp
committee,
committee.
like this is
This is
done.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So, in fact, Mr. Chairman, I will move for the move passage of the 2024 salary ordinance for non-classified employees.
Second.
Motion in a few seconds. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. That does pass.
And I'll ask the question before we get to the other ones. Is there anything more coming from the comp? Okay.
Just elected non-classifieds to sign.
So, Mr. Chairman, I will move for passage of the salary ordinance for classified employees.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. That does pass. Lastly, we have the part-time employees salary ordinance. Kenny, any thoughts on that one? Or Paul, you
Make a
started.
motion?
Oh, you started to make the motion. I'm
Well,
sorry.
on behalf of my good friend, Councilman Freeze, I will move the 2024 salary ordinance for part-time employees.
Second.
Motion and a second. Council, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. That does pass.
There's another one.
All right, Nick,
Take
what,
action on the elected official ones, but all the other ones pass.
Signed.
Nick, anything further at this time?
No, sir.
Council, any further comments?
Nick, I only have one other thing that looks like we didn't sign. I want to make sure I'm not missing something. I have two that we didn't act on, and did I miss passing around the salary ordinance one?
That's the big one, classified, that
So-
needs to go.
So did I miss it, I guess? Those two I don't
No,
think we.
these are good. This is this didn't get approved, and the elected officials, no action. So you're good.
Okay.
Well, I want to say, Nick and Jackie and the entire team in the auditor's office, I want to, on behalf of council, thank you for the immense, enormous amount of work and laboring and the hours that you put into this process. You make this very easy for us. Other than the voting, you make it you make it easy, and thank you for all your
Matt, for
dedication.
Jackie's 90% of the work.
Thank you. Just thank you, thank you, thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm going to echo that. I would tell you, as I go to AIC conferences, if we had a Nick and Jackie poster, we could sell them. If we had Nick and Jackie T-shirts, we could sell those. You have fans all over the state because people do look to your processes as a standard. So that's something we should really be proud of. And
That, the only challenge is
Thank
we
you.
wouldn't know how to record the funds when those come in, so.
Well, they
that's-
would go to us. I mean,
Oh, yours, all right, good.
personal representation.
Council, any other
NIL deal?
Non-fungible
comments?
token. And
Yeah, any other comments, council? at this
motion to
time?
adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, is there a second?
waive the second reading in case we need. it.
Oh,
We didn't do that in the first meeting.
Let's see if we can get that from our agenda today, correct? See if you can find that, Paul, if not,
Yeah.
find it hard copy here.
give a hard copy of the agenda.
You got it?
How about,
All right, it
Approval to waive the second reading on any matter approved today for which it may be deemed necessary for the Allen County Council meeting October 19th, 2023.
And a motion, is there a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that does pass.
Thank you.
We've got an motion for adjournment and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
When's the next regular?